this is Jennifer Whitlock, the artist with Art by J. Whitlock. We're going to be taking this beautiful photograph and creating a 4-inch coaster that's going to be used in a set of coasters of different species of lemurs. So sit back and relax. I'm going to take you through step by step on how to draw your lemur and how to paint it as well. We're going to start today's video with creating a grid on our coaster so that it could help with creating a more lifelike drawing. I do draw freehand, but by setting up the grid, it helps me to identify where each part of the face or the animal or whatever I'm drawing should be in relationship to the rest of it. So this part is dedicated to just setting up that grid. We have a circular coaster, so we're not going to have perfect squares, but we're going to try to find our center by placing the ruler as close to the middle as you think it should. We want to get the ruler as close to the 0 and the 4 as possible. If we move it down, it goes further away from it. We move it up, further away. So this coaster is supposed to be 4 inches, and it's about 1/10 of an inch short on each side. I'm going to take my pencil and make a mark at the middle. I'm then going to move up my ruler until the 1 and the 3 are hitting the top of the coaster, the circle. And I'm going to place another dot on my 2. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. The top of the 1 and the 3 inch mark should be on the edge. And I'll make another mark. I'm going to use my ruler as edge and draw a straight line. I'm going to rotate the coaster and do the same thing. Placing our ruler back into its position in the center, we're going to go ahead and mark our 1 and 3. Follow the line and make sure your 2 stays, and mark it again. Anywhere really, doesn't matter, as long as you follow the line. We're going to get right into transferring our image onto our coaster. As you can see, I have set up a grid on this image of a ring-tailed lemur, and my plan is to make the outline of this ring-tailed lemur onto the coaster. I have used a free app on the Apple Store. Not sure what's available on Android, but this free app is called Drawing Grid. And as long as you don't mind some of these ads here at the top when you're doing your image, it really works out well to create a grid that you can use for your image. So that is how I did that. And then what I'll do is I'll save it as a photo and crop it the way I want it. So I'm going to work my way from the outside in and create this image. The top of our grid is missing. So a good part of this lemur's head is going to be right there at the edge. All right. You also notice that his ears kind of come out of this image as well. I'm shooting for a real close-up view of these lemurs. You can do it any way you want, but I want their eyes and their nose, their snout to be the most prevalent thing that you see in these coasters. So there's not much as far as outline goes left of the lemur that's going to be in the image. But we'll keep going. The ear is going to be out here, so we're not going to see much of it on our coaster, and that's okay. We're going to come back down to the second grid box and find the edge of the ear again. And right here, it kind of follows a line down through its cheek. And part of the challenge of doing this freehand is finding those lines that don't really exist except in shadow. There's another line out here that we're going to bring down as well. And it goes all the way down to the corner of this grid box. And we're going to keep following it all the way around the lemur. Just keep following this grid. You can see the line continue. You're probably asking, well, what about this line? Well, we can add that. And it's important that you do add it, because it helps determine where the rest of our lemur is going to go here. Keep following up. This line curves, and you can't really see it because there's light on light, but there's a curve here right as the fur from the ear starts to curve away. And then you have the darkness of the ear. Oops. Pressed my tablet. She saw a picture of me. Alright, so now we have a pretty ugly outline. You can't see much of the lemur just yet. But we're going to try to work our way in and find some more lines that help us define this lemur. Right above, right still in the first box, we've got a nice section of dark. So we're going to find that in our grid. Doesn't quite come to the corner. But on this side it does. Let's focus on this square now. We've got a nice dark section here. I'm just going to kind of decide what part of this square. You don't have to measure it out perfectly. If you want to, you can. You certainly will get a more realistic image. I prefer to freehand it. Doing that. Get a little preview of my other art. We're going to move on to this square. And again, we've got this tear-shaped dark eye patch that kind of extends down into the next square. We're just going for the basic shape. And the jewel about moving in pencil is that you can erase whenever you want to. Now we're not going to work our way inside yet because again, we're working our way from the outside in. I'm going to keep going down and draw this nice snout, the outer edges of it. There's one nostril. A little bit of another nostril. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you're going to paint over this, you will find the details in the paint. This is just to help you determine where that paint is going to go, where the lights and the darks are going to go. A little line here to help define the snout. This cheek. I already did it on this side. Let's work on the eyes now. Let's find the positioning of the eyes in your square. Kind of right there. We've got a lid. The rest of it's dark. And over here, much more defined lid. And the entire eyeball is in this square. A little bit of that lid down here. Pupil. We have something to start with now. Someplace to put our paint. Now we've transferred the image to our coaster. And now it's time to focus on adding paint to the coaster. The next thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about the paints that I'm going to use today. For this coaster, I used 5 colors. Raw Sienna by Grumbacher, Burnt Sienna by Grumbacher, Raw Umber by Master's Touch, Ivory Black by Grumbacher, and Liquitex Basics Titanium White. I used a variety of brushes, all small because we're working small scale, a liner, a small flat, a medium flat that I have worn out, looks more like a filbert, and a round brush, small round. For a palette today, you don't have to have anything fancy. Some people, including myself, oftentimes use a paper plate covered with a little press and seal saran wrap. This is the lid to one of these handy dandy containers that I bought at IKEA to store some of the jewelry that I was making. Well, they come with lids, and the lids are kind of useless because the jewelry makes it so that you can't really cover it. It's too big. So I use these tray-like covers as a palette. And I will, again, put some press and seal, love this stuff, saran wrap on the outside to preserve the palette. You don't have to, you can wash it. But I think that it's so much easier for cleanup purposes to just have a nice layer of saran wrap or even aluminum foil would work well. We're gonna start putting some paint on our palette, and you're gonna notice that I am not going to put very much on there. This is the Burnt Sienna, just a tiny little dab. bit. Raw sienna. Start with some of this Grumbacher ivory black. A little bit more of that. I think it just came out fast. I probably won't even use all that. And a little bit of titanium white. It's good to start. Just a little bit of paint on the palette. And we're going to start our painting. Okay, y'all, it's time to get this party started. As you can see, I have my reference photo real close by. I have my palette with paints, a couple of other pieces of equipment that's really important to have. Paper towels for drying your brushes and water for cleaning them. So I have some right off the camera here. And we're going to get started on applying some color. The first thing we're going to do before any of that happens is we're going to use an eraser to take some of this pencil off. I know that sounds weird. Why would we do that? Well, we don't need our grid anymore, really. The only reason why we used it is to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Well, we have our drawing there, so we're going to take our grid out, and then we're also going to take very lightly over the pencil and lighten up those pencil markings. And the reason why we're doing that is because we don't want the graphite from the pencil to mix with our paints. So very lightly take it over the image. You don't want to lose your image. Obviously, you still want to know where things are. But this will keep smudging from happening. Okay? So now use a little bit more forcefully through, I prefer to use a white eraser, but it has been stolen. I have kids. They take my stuff. So I'm going to use my pink one. It doesn't really matter. I just think that the white one does a cleaner job. Doesn't have to be perfect. It is going to be covered with paint. Paper towel. So you can still see the image. It's lighter, but it's still there. Okay? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a liner. I've already gotten it wet. You want to dip it in the water and dry it off a little on your paper towel. And I'm going to dab it into my black. Now, the surface is really going to help determine how much color you're going to put on it. These are wooden, and I haven't put any gesso on there to help the paint stay on top of the, and I'm doing that on purpose. I really want it to have this organic feel to it, which is why I'm letting the paint absorb into the wood. It has more of a watercolored look to it. So I've not put any gesso on this wood. I'm gonna add a little bit more water and make my black a little thinner. And I'm gonna find the darkest of darks, right around the eyes. And the good thing is when you add water, it adds to the translucency of the black. It's already a translucent black. You can already see through it really well. But it helps create a lighter dark tone. So I can do the dark darks, and by adding just a little bit of water, create a lighter version of that. More of a gray, without adding white. This is not going to be perfect. You're going to be adding layers and layers of paint to this. This is just to help you identify where those dark sections are. One of the things I love the most about working with acrylics is how fast the paint dries. Some people don't really like that, but when you're working with an acrylic, I feel like you can add more layers faster. I'm a very impatient artist. I don't like to wait for results. I want almost immediate gratification. So my paintings cannot take days, weeks, months. I want to be able to create something recognizable in a short period of time. Acrylics kind of makes you work faster than you normally would if you were using oils that take a long time and have a long working time. So again, we're just defining these dark areas. Not necessarily adding any detail yet. I'm going to switch away from my liner and bring in my flat. I have blended in quite a bit of water, creating almost a gray tone instead of a deep dark black. What's interesting about this is that you can apply it basically to the whole lemur. Even though you have a white face, that white face consists of so many colors and tones. It's not white. And you're always going to have a darker layer to help helps bring those highlights out. By adding a lot of water to my black, I'm able to create this translucent color and blend some of these darker areas into lighter ones. And as you can see, I have barely put a dent in my paint. There, very, very little has been used. One thing you do need to do with acrylics is you do need to allow it time to dry. It is on a wooden surface, so it's absorbing some of that water. And it might take just a little bit longer to dry your layers because of that. As you start to build on the layers and it's drying on top of just paint and not absorbing into the wood, then it will take less time to dry. You can use a hair dryer to dry it quicker. or you can just wait. It just depends on what your mojo is. If you're really into it and you want it to dry faster, use your hair dryer. But if you do, use it on a cool setting. And if it is warm to the touch, you want to wait until it cools off. Otherwise, your paint will peel away. It won't stick to the surface. So we're going to wait on this to dry a little bit, and then we're going to start adding more layers. We're really hitting the road running here. I went ahead and sped up this video and put it in time lapse. You can get the basic idea here. What I'm doing is adding in layers of tones. First starting off with that ivory black, blending in some of the titanium white and the raw sienna to give it the photograph has a yellow quality to it, a golden quality. Again, white isn't always just white. It reflects the colors around it, and you want to translate that to your painting. And slowly, gradually, you're going to be building up your layers. I was able to stop my video several times, get up, move around, wait for my paint to dry, and start adding in even more layers. You can see that, it starts to look really good, and like it's almost done. And then I go back and I add another layer, and it's really easy to see when you're close up to the coaster that by adding these layers, you're adding in some depth and definition to the fur. I wanted to take a minute and give a shout out to the curator for the Lemur Conservation Foundation, Caitlin Kenny. She is the photographer of these beautiful photographs that I'm using as a reference. She's a jack of all trades, a keeper, manager, curator, planner, trainer, and she's well known in her field and for her love of lemurs. It really shows in her beautiful photographs. I'm creating these coasters to give as a donation to LCF. They can add them to their collection of lemur-themed artwork, use them in their office, or even offer them as an auction item for some other fundraising prize. The foundation is near and dear to me, and I hope that this tutorial not only serves to inspire the artist in you, but also to think creatively on how you can give to nonprofit organizations. Even if it's not money, you can give in ways that your talents allow. Follow them on Facebook at the Lemur Conservation Foundation for updates on their lemur family, more beautiful photographs and educational opportunities. And I hope that this video has helped inspire you to do not only your own artwork, but to creatively give.